Here's what happened. I woke up and I had that rush of anxiety that hit and like that shallow breathing that was happening and that tension that was building in my body. And I had all these things I had to get done in the day. And it just felt like there was not enough time in the day. This was leading up to that social media conference back in 2018 that then eventually caused me afterwards to hit my burnout. And what happened was rest wasn't even on my mind. Like I just had one challenge I had to get done and then move on to the next and then move on to the next until the end of the day where I'm exhausted and I'm like, I could go to sleep and then repeat this the next day. And what happened was by not resting, what built within me was the overwhelming feeling of, is this going to work? Is this not? All these responsibilities I have going on, this feeling of having to be perfect for everyone else, for the speakers that were coming in, for the attendees, for the team members. I felt like I had to be on and show up for everyone else. And that was exhausting in itself. And so I had that building up. I had the stress building up. And then the anxiety of like, is this thing going to happen or not? Like all those potential scenarios that come up. And so what I was in the fight or flight mode for the body. It's the sympathetic nervous system, or the response of the nervous system that I was in. And for me, I got to the point where eventually my body had to make me listen. And that's what caused me to hit burnout, where when you hit burnout, it's so hard to get out of bed. You're just exhausted. You're done. So I don't want you to have to hit burnout to get the lesson that rest is a really important part in your day. And it's not just for sleep, but for those moments in between the day that I really want to get into and share with you. So this is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Before getting into it today, thank you for listening. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe and follow for the latest episodes. My commitment to you is to make this the best show it can be, to be able to continue to grow this show, be the best storyteller, the best researcher that I can be for you with the information I'm sharing, and the best interviewer for the guests that are coming on to share their insights, all focus on this mission of Make Burnout Extinct. So thank you for being a part of this movement and for taking the time to listen. Today, I want to talk about how rest is a strength. It's not a weakness. And as a human being, we all need moments of rest. These moments to be able to recharge and recover so that you can show up even better for the next day and to be more productive and better with your decision-making, which I could have used so much more back in 2018 for my decision-making, so much better decision-making back then than what happened. And then being able to feel energized, more energized. Rest is a great way to help you do that. And then there's a bunch of other benefits that support when it comes to lowering the stress levels, being able to boost the immune system. But what I want to get into is not just, you have all those benefits, but then what I want to break it down into is why you might be feeling guilt around taking the time to rest. And then get into what is happening for the body when you're not in rest mode, when you're in that fight or flight mode. And then what are some practical ways to make a change and start to implement small moments of rest in your day besides sleep? Because rest, for the first thing I want to share with you, is that it doesn't have to mean spending like a week vacation somewhere. Rest could be just a few seconds throughout the day, a few minutes, having these moments to be able to reconnect with yourself and to recharge so that you can show up for the next task. Because as a human being, we're meant for that variety where you're trying a bunch of different things, making different things happen in your life. That's an important function for the human body as a design mechanism, where it's not meant to do the same thing over and over and over again for the rest of your life. Like that wasn't possible out there in the wild, like when you think back to our ancestors. So what I want to get into is why you might be thinking rest is a weakness. So it could be with how you grew up as a kid. You could have gotten that messaging. I got that messaging really in movies, where I always saw like the most important person in the movie felt like they had the most burden and most struggle and obligations. And it became that main character arc. So I thought, okay, I have to do that. I want to be important and I want to do important things. So then I have to feel like I'm pushing through and suffering and overall hurting my own well-being. Because I get something great from that of like being important. So that could be you as well, or it could be with, family, parents, thinking of putting on these, unrealistic expectations for you, where every time you had a result, it just wasn't good enough for them. They wanted more and more and more. You got into this perfectionism, and then you got into this moment of like feeling like you had to be on constantly. And that's where you get into the fight or flight mode, where it's just this feeling of being on. The tension is always there, and then it just becomes your normal. Or it could be just based off of like what's out there on social media, of like everyone's got the perfect life or the hustle and the grind and like putting in the work. And I am really believe in putting in the work. That's so important. Like you're gonna have to do hard things and push through the challenges in order to move towards who it is you want to become and to create the better life for yourself. Like it does take effort in that. But then there can be too much of the extremes in that way, where if you aren't able to create your own harmony with rest, that's where then it's a one-way ticket to hitting burnout. Because with burnout, it goes back to what I've talked about. It's a spectrum where every day your habits decide where you land on this spectrum, where on one end you've hit burnout, and then on the other end you've made burnout extinct. And of course, my focus is to make sure that you're trying to you're spending as much time as you can in the make burnout extinct area. But there are red flags that your body gives off as signals that you're moving towards hitting burnout. The first big red flag is that chronic exhaustion. When you're feeling that fatigue throughout the day and just in these moments where something that used to not make you really tired is starting to make you tired, those are all signals from the body letting you know that you're moving towards hitting burnout and being dragged by the burnout beast. And what can happen is you could choose not to listen to those signals. And that can be based off of just this idea of you got to keep moving forward. The guilt could be realistically, you feel like with all the stuff you got going on, that the world's going to come crashing down. Like realistically, you're like, how the hell am I even supposed to create rest in my day when I have all these responsibilities with family or at work or in relationships? And I just feel like there's no time in the day to make it happen. What I want to remind you is flexibility. You don't need to have weeks to create rest. You can just have a few minutes in the day for these moments to rest. What's really important is creating variety in how you're in the mode your body is in. So I want to get into the nervous system a bit. I'm going to nerd out with you. I'm going to get some nerd vibes here to break it down, which gets me really excited. But I do want to talk about two specific phases that the nervous system can be in. One is a sympathetic phase, which is that fight or flight mode. You also have the stress response of like freeze and fawn, but I want to really focus in on fight or flight, which is that fight of like, okay, you got a threat coming your way. So it's like literally like a boxing match. You're like, all right, I'm going to fight through this, or like fight through the challenge. And this is where you're like putting in the reps, showing up, doing the hard things. And then the flight, which is like that feeling of, okay, I'm going to run away from this situation. Or, with exercise, literally like running. So that is one mode. And then you have the parasympathetic mode for the nervous system. And that is where you get into the rest and digest. This is where the digestion is able to happen. You're feeling more relaxed. This is where the body can recharge and be able to recover in order for you to then move forward and become become better at your energy levels. So if that's where you can feel more energized. It can be better at your decision making for especially work or in relationships, or you don't want to say that thing and you catch yourself before you do. Or it could be better at your productivity, at the actual work tasks that you're getting done, or productivity around the house with doing chores around the house. It helps. It's that difference where you feel like you're able to move through and get into the flow of things a lot easier. But that comes from then the recharge of the rest. So what could be what I want to share with you is what it could feel like if you've been in the fight or flight mode for so long, right? Where you just constantly feel like you're going, you notice the fatigue hitting, you notice you're hitting that chronic exhaustion with that stress buildup. I want to share with you how it could feel to try to move into rest mode. And what it is ultimately it's going to feel awkward as hell. It's like any new habit, you have the first phase of habit formation, which is the awkward phase. So it will feel awkward. It's like using a fork with your opposite hand for when you're eating. Like that's just a weird feeling, like going. And so what could happen is the body, when it's in a certain flight or fight mode, what might be difficult is because it's awkward and it's not used to it. There's a few things that can come up for your body that you got to be aware of so that you can just understand that this is natural. It's not something to be, because I go back to the saying, the more you understand something, the less scary it is. But when you can understand that this naturally could come up, it can help you to move forward rather than like keep going back to your old pattern. So what comes up is that when you have these moments to go into rest mode, what's important is changing your activities, right? So it's being able, really comes back to the actions that you're doing for the body. So when you're in fight or flight mode, you could be really tense. Your body could be super tense. Your muscles are contracted. You can feel like your eyes are in alert, like super wide alert mode. You feel like you're rushing and getting busy and doing a bunch of different things. So this thought, as some activities that you could do to rest, the thought of meditation, or the thought of just sitting in nature, or the thought of journaling, taking a few moments to journal, like that seems like too big of an extreme, right? You're kind of like, there's no way I want to get into that mode. And that makes sense because it is a drastic shift where if you were to just sit down and meditate, your mind could be racing with a bunch of different thoughts. And what can happen is there's natural resistance to rest because again, it's that feeling of like hitting against an imaginary wall. It's uncomfortable. It's like there's this resistance from the body to change how things are. And the reason for that is because what's familiar can feel safe for the body, right? Even if it's something that is causing you to move towards hitting burnout. And when you stay in the same mode, that is safety. You know what to expect. But what's the issue with this is that when you're in fight or flight mode, there are two hormones that your body produces, the adrenaline and cortisol. And what that can do is mask your body's fatigue. So that is where you don't actually notice how tired you really are. And that's where then the chronic exhaustion can build up. So whenever you were to get into rest mode, like of either just watching some shows or scrolling on your phone, that's where you can feel this like really exhausting feeling. And what that's all doing is it's a delayed fatigue recognition from the body, where now that you're getting into more of a restful state, with the adrenaline and cortisol levels going down, that is where all of a sudden the fatigue hits. And that's where you can feel like even more tired. But what happens is then if you feel more tired, what could occur is you decide that you think there's something wrong. Like you feel like shouldn't be happening. Why am I so tired? So then you would go back to your old patterns, which could be, let me go on to the next challenge. And that's where then adrenaline and cortisol hit, where it can mask the body fatigue. And that's where you feel kind of like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit, not so much better, but like you're not feeling as tired. And that's where it can get mixed up for your signals from the body. Another one that can come up is when you're on your phone. I mean, that or on the computer and you're looking on different websites, that's where you can also get back into the fight or flight mode, because there could be, a lot of fear out there with different stories that you're reading or different things that people are sharing. And that can feel overwhelming in itself. So what I've noticed as a helpful way to get into rest mode is actually to focus on exercise. Exercise is a great middle bridge between the fight or flight mode and then the rest and digest mode, which again is for the fancy terms, it's the sympathetic phase or sympathetic mode of the nervous system, and then you have the parasympathetic mode of the nervous system for the relaxed one. So with working out and exercise, I go back to mo time, movement. What this is movement is a form of fight or flight at the beginning. That's where you can get the cortisol and adrenaline hormones pumping into the body. But what it does is over time, through exercise, you release endorphins, which mask the pain. So it's a way to help your body to deal with all the pain that could be coming from working out. But then at the end, after the workout, your body then releases serotonin and dopamine. So these are two hormones that I really want to dive into. Serotonin is that feeling of, okay, you did something for you with working out. The health benefits of working out, of getting exercise and movement. And then with the dopamine, it's a reward of like, you finished this thing. And that's what's really important, is that when you're constantly in fight or flight mode, you really have no end point. So there's no way to really close out the cycle. And that's where it leads into the chronic exhaustion. But by closing out the cycle with the exercise, your body then can relax, because it's like, okay, something got finished. And that's where then you can feel the fatigue set in and that exhaustion set in with the rest. But this is really important, is that fatigue and that exhaustion won't last as long as you think. It may just need a few minutes to rest after the exercise before then getting into your next work task. And so what I usually do in my day is I'll go out for like a morning walk. So I get that walk in. I'll then get some work, I'll eat breakfast. I'll get my work tasks in. And then when I'm feeling that tension and that fight or flight mode for a long period of time, then I'll go and just lift some weights. So I'll lift weights. I could do something like push-ups even, or squats. And I'll be able to channel that energy, the fight or flight energy, into then the rest and relaxation mode at the end. And that then it becomes a lot easier for me to rest in other ways. That is where you can build this habit of exercising throughout your day. And just for a few minutes, where you can go out for a walk, or you could do like something like an intense workout too, to help out. And that becomes a bridge for you then open up other activities for rest throughout the day. That's where it can be a lot easier to like journal too. But those are different ways to then help your body to recover in order to show up and be more productive. Because let's say you journal and you're able to journal out what happened in your day, then you could notice patterns as to where to improve for tomorrow. Or if you're dealing with a problem, creating movement in your day and going out for a walk, it can help you with your body producing more energy. And then it can also give you a moment to have a different change of perspective of getting into a new environment. And that's where then a new idea could pop in to help you to solve the problem. So not only is it providing a moment for your body to actually rest and recover, but it also then helps you in supporting your productivity and the actions you got to get done for the rest of the day for your tasks. And what the focus is to help you to realize that it's important to start things and then end things throughout your day. So when it comes to your tasks, making sure you have a start time and an end time. Even if it's those tasks that are going to have to get done for work, like let's say a big work project that's going to take a few weeks, making sure you're creating these work time blocks. That's something that's been really helpful for me, is having these moments of like, if it's 90-minute work time blocks to 30-minute work time blocks where I start work and then I end. So then my body recognizes, okay, this is a moment for me to get out of the fight or flight mode. You can rest and relax with like an activity to help you ease into that, which could be exercise, or that could be, journaling or meditation as you get better at this. And then you can pick it back up once you feel recharged. You can pick it back up and go to your next work task. And then you can keep that cycle going throughout your day. But again, it reminds the body that it is closing these loops that could cause that stress to build up, that can then lead into the chronic exhaustion, that first red flag of burnout. And how you can think about it is this balloon. Your body is a balloon where it can handle a certain amount of stress and certain amount of overwhelm and certain amount of anxiety. But there is a point where then the balloon is going to pop. And that is hitting burnout. And by having these moments to rest throughout your day, you're then letting the air out of the balloon. And what that can then do is help you to show up better for your relationships, to show up better at your job and at your work, for your team. It can help you to show up better for yourself with, again, focusing on stuff like your health and fitness with these exercises. And it can, again, help you create that harmony for you so that you can continue to show up the next day and the next day and continue that momentum of getting out of feeling stuck of the situation that you're in and the patterns that you're in. And that becomes such a powerful gift to give to yourself, because as you continue to move through your day and you're creating these moments of stop start for the body, of going through these different modes, that also can build confidence within your body to know that you're going to take care of your body. And that trust that builds with your body then helps you to face the challenges ahead. And it creates this confidence within you to know that whatever challenges are going to come your way, you're going to be able to handle those challenges. And from there, then that can open up doorways of possibilities for your life, of what you thought was even possible. And that becomes an amazing journey for your life. And that's something I want for you, is to be able to look at possibilities of what's out there for you and being able to get excited to go and explore those possibilities and to move forward in life, and also to be able to reconnect with that excitement and that joy and that fun in your day-to-day life. Because there are chapters to life, and there are going to be certain moments where you're going to be putting in the reps and putting in the grind. But when you can recognize and continue these habits of having these moments of rest, and recognize from your body when you're moving too close to hitting burnout, that's where you can then change your behaviors and change your path towards making burnout extinct. And I'm so fired up for you. And I know that you are absolutely capable of being able to do this. Start small with this. And so figure out just what could be for a few minutes tomorrow, a moment for you to have a rest, to get into rest mode. What could be that exercise, if that's the walking to actual like push-ups, or it could be a full like workout. What is going to be that for you for just a few extra minutes to help you get into rest mode in between the work tasks or in between the responsibilities you have with family, so that you can recharge for yourself and give yourself that gift. And I want to tell you, if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You're absolutely capable of being able to do this. You got this. If you like this episode, please don't forget to leave a rating or review for this podcast and help get this message out of Make Burnout Extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I don't take that for granted ever, and I'm so excited to reconnect again soon.